Hi, thanks for joining us. My name's Rich. I'm head of solutions and consultancy for Unified. We are a full-service, multi-platform e-commerce agency based in London, and we've got hopefully a really interesting talk today with one of our long-term clients, the Conran Shop. Here up on stage with me, I've got Emma Hamilton, head of web development manager, at the Conran Shop. Helen Wigley, head of marketing for the Conran Shop, and Fraser Trivett, representing Shopify. So, like I said, Conran Shop are a client of ours for a long time, probably 7, 8 years maybe now. But if we can start off, Helen, can you give us just a bit of background on the Conran Shop? What's been happening for you guys over the last couple of years?
Yeah, sure. So the Conran Shop was established in 1973 by Sir Terence Conran. And Terence was many things. He wasn't just a furniture designer, he was also a writer, a restaurateur, an architect. He was thoroughly involved in lots of different aspects of design. He established the first Conran Shop on London's Fulham Road in 1973, and he was really inspired by his travels to Europe and Scandinavia, and it was one of those travels actually where he came across the duvet, and he was the first person to bring the duvet back to Britain and retail it. So Terence carried on, he designed for the Conran Shop and carried on curating these wonderful stores filled with exciting things from all over the world, and he carried on designing for us until 2020 when he unfortunately passed on. 2020 was a really pivotal year for the Conran Shop. Not only did the nation go into lockdown, it was also when we were bought by a private investment firm, and it was sort of around this time that we started having to scale back in order to grow. We had to take a real look at the business and sort of see where the ROI was and what it was that we really wanted to focus on to start growing. And then in 2023 was probably another really important year for the business. We celebrated 50 years as a retailer, and this was when we really started to focus on our in-house own brand offering. So we completely changed the business model. We went from a huge catalogue of SKUs right down to sort of our own product offering, very much focused on in-house design from our London-based studio. It was also this year we rebranded. Now this was through branding agency Pentagram, and it wasn't just offline and in-store, it was also through e-com, online, digital, and it gave us a fantastic chance to really take a look at where we wanted to go forward, what CMS platform we wanted to use, and what tools that we were going to use to assist us to make this move as well. So looking at today and forward, we now have a wonderful flagship store in London, Sloane Square. We've actually been there a year tomorrow. We opened in London Design Festival, so we're having a happy birthday party to the store tomorrow. We've now got a huge store in the Middle East, a Shopify Middle East website that caters to that area, and also now our wonderful new Shopify.com website.
Yes, yeah. And so there's obviously been a lot happening over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And we know that you've moved over to Shopify now, and that's part of this, is this kind of scaling back, but what were the challenges you were facing on the old site? So we've looked after 7, 8 years, Magento 1 site initially, Magento 2 site for the last 5 years, something like that. What were the challenges, Emma, with looking after that site of the business before?
So obviously a big legacy for us with our Magento platform. And as Helen said, bringing our design in-house obviously represented a massive shift in our needs as a business, because whereas before, we might have been offering maybe 50 chairs just within the furniture category with, multiple different variants within those, and lots of different finishes and fabrics and all that kind of thing. We're now offering, maybe 10 chairs with just 2 or 3 variants. So that represented a big shift in our needs, and we had to then go back and look at our Magento platform and go, okay, is it looking too kind of bloated for what we can manage as a team, as a more compact, more focused team with a less complex product catalogue? And I think also a lot of people here who maybe use Magento will know there's quite a big commitment in terms of yearly upgrades and security patches and the hosting and all that kind of thing. And while it's a great platform that was giving us immense flexibility, there are a lot of customizations and third-party plugins and that kind of thing that we just didn't need anymore. So I think those were the kind of challenges that we had in front of us and started us along the path of looking for other options.
Yeah, and it's that kind of clunky, a site that's been built over a lot of time, a lot of projects on top of it, kind of bolted together, and there's that kind of technical debt and that desire to kind of streamline it back and get things right. But Fraser, how does that this must be a common thing that you guys see, especially on Shopify's side, in terms of the people coming from these big, bloated, kind of some of them quite dated platforms and moving over. Like, is that something that you hear a lot about?
Yes, we do see it a lot, and I think if we think back maybe 6-8 years ago, there wasn't that much choice in a way, and I think it's more you had build-it type solutions where you would have some form of infrastructure, but you would need to build on top of that. I think in the past 4 years, maybe 5 years, there's been a lot of development in SaaS solutions, especially Shopify as well, when we're investing. And I think this has enabled businesses to now look at different options in terms of what they want to do. I think there is a myth with us before, is kind of you could have a buy it type solution, which I would classify SaaS solutions under that, but you're not just gated towards that. You can build that out to what works with you. And I think the common ones that we see, and when we're talking to merchants, are complex tech stacks that I call Frankenstein. You kind of like build and build and build, and then you've got this monster and you feel like, what do I actually do with this and what can we do? There's a bit of a risk there. More so that they feel it's built for engineers and rather for business users at the end of it. It's getting tougher to actually get as much out of the platform. And cost as well. There's a lot of cost that goes into building these solutions, and there's lots of costs with resource internally, externally as well. And that TCO, everyone hears TCO at the moment in terms of what that is, but really understanding where you can invest and what you can do. And we've seen it with brands such as Neptune, similar into what you're doing, Newcastle United, Jay Lindenberg, to name a few. They've wanted to kind of consolidate what they're doing and actually invest in the right areas, which is similar to what the Conran.
Yeah, for sure. And Helen, obviously, there was all this stuff that was going on in the last couple of years, rebranding, launching in the Middle East. But what was the kind of key thing that kind of kicked off that replatforming conversation and made it the right time to do it?
There were several things that initiated the conversation about replatforming. The first one that was probably the most important, to be perfectly honest, was the rebrands. With the rebrand, it meant that the current CMS we were on wasn't capable of hosting, well, it wasn't going to host the site as we wanted it to. We wanted much more of a focus on content and storytelling. A lot of our products are very expensive, very high price point. And so we have to be able to tell the story from, initial concept through to the designer, through to manufacture, and be able to really explain or give, a bit of a justification as to why the product is at that price point. And so we really wanted to focus on content and storytelling, and having the ability to add on things such as like an AR 360 viewer for bigger ticket items like sofas. That was particularly important. Another thing, to be quite frank, we did a cost-saving exercise. We really wanted to try and get down total cost of ownership. And so sort of thinking about that as a reduction was very important. And scaling back the tech stack. As Fraser's just said, we had a lot of complex, sometimes confusing platforms that were just bolted onto each other, and it was just getting more and more convoluted. And so we really wanted to streamline that and take the money from that and invest it back into really good design, creating really good content, focusing on getting that across the site. It was just kind of get back a bit more in control, I guess.
Exactly,
and
get it laid out.
Use you guys actually for bigger projects rather than just having to maintain the site.
Exactly, yeah. Get your house in order and then try and grow from there, which is what this is about. And then obviously one part of that was the kind of Middle East expansion, and I think that was a key part when we looked at the platform options available. Do we kind of spin it up as a copy of what you currently did have at the time on Magento, or do we take that as an opportunity to move? But how did that kind of work in terms of that Middle East site, Emma, and spinning that up as part of this project?
Yeah, I mean, so we previously had been in France. We had a shop in France, a website dedicated to the French market. Part of the shift was to, bring our international shipping back to our UK warehouse. And yes, we were looking to open up in a new market, and that, I guess it enabled us to sort of make bold decisions. I mean, to go into a bit more about what Helen just said, we were operating a ERP, a PIM, A/B testing software that we had on the website, different reporting, all of these different things with all of these different kind of sources of support. And we knew with Shopify it would be more of a one-stop shop for us, and particularly with things like payment gateway and having duties and taxes all under one umbrella in a really intuitive, kind of automated, easy to manage system. So we knew that we would be able to kind of more easily manage two sort of e-commerce ecosystems in parallel. We had a brand new team in Q8 who needed support in learning the system, and it's very intuitive. It was easier for us to learn, easier for us to support them with. So yeah, I guess the change of focus away from EU to Middle East was a chance to make a bold decision.
Yeah, and I think it's that simplifying it back was the key bit there for that team. Like you say, it's a new team coming in. You don't really want them to inherit this kind of big, complex platform that you had to look after in the past. You guys know it because you've looked after it for 5 years, but dropping that in on someone who's looking after a new market, and it's going to complicate things. What kind of other pieces within this kind of re-platform project are areas where you kind of got to pull it back for you guys in the UK? Obviously, the Middle East is one part of it, but where else did you see kind of areas where you could pull it back?
I mean, scaling back. I think that Shopify, the beauty of it is it really lets you kind of experiment with things, which you really can't do when you're building solutions from scratch. You've just kind of got to commit to something. Whereas with Shopify, you don't have that kind of financial commitment to things. And so as a team, you're kind of able to, you don't have to necessarily live with the process, and you can, you can really get into the tools and start using them. It makes you a lot more agile. It makes it a lot more easy to kind of pivot from, to just decide to go in another direction if something's not working.
And we think we've done that a few times with things like merchandising tools, search and merch. There's so many out there that we can use, and it's not a case of you've got to get us, our developers, to spend weeks trying to get it set up just to see whether it works. It's like you can try it out. You can try out these apps, not on your live site necessarily, but try it out, work out which one works, and then adapt it quickly, which I think is something that, in the past it would have taken a lot longer to test those things out, a lot more financial commitment.
Yeah, with the merchandising tool, for example, we tried 4 or 5 out over the course of a week and saw kind of, what features had, and we decided to move away from our previous merchandising tool, and it was really easy to find one that, had the right flexibility for what we wanted to do in different collections and get really granular with it, and then actually take it forward without necessarily even having to involve you guys. Although, we do usually have to involve you at some point because we've got a customized theme. So we
can work on the nice, exciting stuff that you don't necessarily need us for. So that's great. And then I think that's part of it. I think that business simplification is part of this process. I think we've seen it, whereas before you would have these really complex business requirements, and maybe you're trying to do everything perfectly, exactly how the business wanted it, but then you'd have all this kind of really complex integrations, big systems, a lot of development work, and then you might find out at the end that actually it's going to cost you even more money to maintain it, it's going to be complex. It's something we've definitely seen a shift to this. Actually, what's this kind of nice halfway house of it, meets enough of your business requirements, you can get it up and running, you can test it, and then if you really get the buy-in from customers, then you can start pushing it and doing more of it. And Fraser, again, that must be something that when you see people moving over to Shopify, we've seen it in the past of saying you've got to kind of do it Shopify's way, but if Shopify are doing it and their customers have tested this out, we know it's going to work, and then we can build anything kind of on top of it afterwards when we've overcome.
Yeah, so I've been in Shopify for 3 years now, and I've worked in different segments, so mid-market, large, enterprise. And I think momentum's a key thing, and for merchants and brands to see is use cases and seeing people actually doing it. And I love the thought of the test and learn mentality. If I go back to when you have a build it type solution, if you want to test and learn, it's going to cost you a lot of money, take a lot of time. and that learning could be very risky in terms of what you're actually trying to do. So I think where we see it now, and we very much scaled up market, and that is the position that we're at, but we're also gaining momentum there because, well, what I would say in any case like this is if you have like a monolith tech stack or you've got a layers of integration, what you want to try and look at is an ecosystem of partners that you can work with to try and learn that different type of mentality. So where I've seen it in the last few years is larger business, complex businesses like the Conran Shop really want to deep dive into the solutioning of what they want to try and do across all segments and trial different parts of it. Like you're saying, okay, we'll launch a couple of websites here, we'll trial this. I think I love the unified is your name because we're very much unified as a business. We do have our platform, we have point of sale in retail, we have payments, but you get that choice. And I think it's massively important to have that choice. And what you see now is a lot of businesses, like Conran Shop, we're so happy to have them on Shopify, but we have others, larger scale brands that are doing hundreds of millions coming onto Shopify because the risk is not there anymore. We have an infrastructure for you to build off of, so the likes of a Daniel Wellington or a Mint Velvet or On Running that we usually worked with as well, they can try and do that. So I would say we're seeing more and more, we're seeing more complex ones, but I think the risk factor of moving now is vastly reduced. And I think that's important as well here. Just my final comment is you can always talk to Shopify, and that's fine, but you don't want any bias in that way. Always talk to other brands, other merchants. We can introduce that as well, and that's where you hear firsthand of how it's done and what the impact's been.
Nice, thanks. And then, Helen, on your side, marketing side, how did the kind of Shopify move help in terms of, from your department, helping with marketing?
I have to be honest, moving to Shopify was a godsend.
Need that tagline again.
Yeah, you can use it in your marketing.
Yeah.
No, on all seriousness, it just made life so much easier for me in a multitude of different ways. I think one of the key things is SEO. SEO is really important to Conran, and we have a huge SEO roadmap that we're constantly updating and moving forward on, but it just gave me control to be able to move at speed, create landing pages that are optimized really well for keywords rather than having to rely on either having something made, custom made, or we used a third-party bolt-on which wasn't particularly SEO friendly, whereas now I'm in control of the site structure, navigation, various other things, how the site looks, and it just makes life so much easier. And also when looking at things like Meta and Google, being able to manage shopping feeds, I just have one simple app that I'm able to manage. So anything from like updating custom labels or adding in GTINs or SKUs or whatever, me and my team can do that, whereas previously I was reliant on a developer to push those changes via a Magento export. So it's just making life that much easier. And another huge benefit, I used to spend hours on a Monday reporting to shareholders and stakeholders and various people, whereas now I can easily extract that data from Shopify and either put it through Looker Studio or use one of the out-of-the-box reports. It's just much easier, and also it just connects much better to other platforms, things like our ESP, our eCRM, that connects easily. I can pull data from Shopify directly into our ESP, so then I can immediately have product recommendations or the customer data, so I can segment effectively. And as a result of doing that, email's now our second best performing revenue channel, and it's simply from making these updates and changes. I guess we were probably quite archaic in the past, but these updates it's really increased our revenue streams.
It's that agility, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
That really helps, and being able to do it all yourselves, which is great.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was a big project. We talk about scaling back, but the project itself to move, obviously there was a lot going on at the same time. What were some of the challenges, Emma, in kind of running a replatforming, a rebranding, and launching in a new market all at the same time?
Yeah, it's kind of insane when you say it like that, isn't it? Well, we kind of saw it more as a sort of opportunity than a challenge in a way, because launching in a new market meant that we could actually build the website on Shopify in English and then roll that out in a new market in a quite low stakes environment, debug it, and really get everything kind of up and running with our UK website running in parallel.
Yeah.
So that was a really good opportunity, but there were obviously a lot of challenges with doing so much all at once. And I mean, you mentioned earlier that our Q8 team wanted to sort of just kind of carbon copy what we were doing almost, and so that made us really, really have to look at things and go, okay, is this really worth carrying over? Are we getting an ROI from this? And think about leaving some of our legacy systems and systems behind. And a good example of that is our content, for example. We had a huge amount of really valuable search real estate built up through years of SEO content, and yeah, it had to be quite brutal about cutting that back and going, okay, is this actually relevant to our brand? Is it actually relevant to our products anymore? Is it worth translating, that kind of thing? And gift cards was another really big difficult decision, because we had a legacy gift card system left over from like 2 ERP systems ago, which we sort of had to fudge with our new ERP system and Magento, and it had never really worked smoothly. So did we really want to carry that over as well into Shopify, or could we set it to one side and use Shopify's integrated gift card system at a later date? But that's a really tough decision, because you're weighing up your customer experience and the benefit to your customers and their expectations against your ROI, and yeah, big challenge there.
It's tough to do that, yeah. You've got to weigh up those options, but I think making those decisions meant that we could get the new platform up and running, the new website up and running, and then start delivering really quite quickly on it afterwards. And I think, the UK site launching, what was it, 2 months, 3 months after the first Middle East site, showed that we could do that and move at that pace, which was great. So the site's obviously been up and running now. End of last year for Middle East, beginning of this year for the UK. Helen, what kind of numbers have you seen, results? That's the important bit.
We've had some really great positive results, which is thankfully very good to see. We've had, our main thing, like I said before, total cost of ownership, we've actually reduced that by 70%, which is huge, and it's a massive feat, and it's thanks to Unified, thanks to you guys. But since launching in February 2024, we've also seen our conversion rate increase by 109%. Again, it's fantastic for us. And again, it just demonstrates that we're showing the customer, or giving the customer, a much better user experience. We've taken away those difficult blockers to get to convert, which we knew we had, there's legacy problems, but so we've now been able to give the customer a much better user experience across both the Middle East and the UK website. So it's been great.
Very good, always glad to hear it. And then positive news. And then in terms of what's next for the Conran Shop, like I say, steady platform, kind of on an even keel, and now kind of set up, ready to grow. What's next on the agenda?
So it's an exciting time of discovering what else in the kind of integrated Shopify world, what other tools we can make use of, really. Trade and wholesale has been a massive area of growth for the business, which is really exciting. And in fact, tomorrow we're going to be hopefully launching our new trade website, opening that to our customers. And Shopify, it really offers a pretty easy to kind of set up and get going with their system of catalog discounts, and it allows you to offer really nice tiered different levels of discounts for different customers. It's quite a sophisticated way of offering discounts to trade customers alongside our retail site trade discounts as well. And the other project we have currently in flight is bringing all of our stores under the POS, Shopify POS umbrella as well. It's really nice, intuitive hardware, works obviously with the Shopify backend, seamlessly integrates with that. And as a business, we've always struggled quite hard with our POS integration. And again, it's the multiple support, multiple third parties kind of feeding in, and now it's just one source of support, one system, and I think it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, and I think it's that unified commerce. I'm going to mention it. It's your term as well. But it's that unified commerce, getting it all up and running. And I think it definitely wouldn't have been as easy to roll these things out if we hadn't have gone down this route. I think, like you say, POS systems integrating with ERPs behind the scenes has been a battle that dealt with for years.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see an easy solution trying to do it that way, but I think this whole kind of new approach, but I think that's given you that headspace. I think that's the move. You're not using us as your agency for having to do all this kind of updates and patches and looking after the site. You're using us for the bigger projects that you need and rolling out. And you've also got the day-to-day. It's easier, you can do everything yourselves, which means you've got this kind of freed up headspace to actually focus on what the new things are. And I think that's the key bit there. That's the scaling back. It's scaling back on all those sides, scaling back on tech, scaling back on how much you're having to think about all these things all the time, and then it kind of frees you up to do what's next, which is great. So yeah, thanks guys for joining me up here.
Thank you.
I don't know if we have time for questions. No, I'm getting a no. We don't have time for questions, so we'll wrap up there, but we'll be around and you can reach out and contact us.
Thanks.
Nice one.
Thank you.